How you guys doing? It is currently Wednesday, July 29th, 2020 out here in this quarantine. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm just gonna really get into something that's kind of going on right now. If you guys are unaware, the NFL Network, every single year, they have the NFL players get together and they basically vote on who is the best player, who are the best players in the league for in their respective positions, just in the league overall. And then they'll have them sit together and they'll talk about it, going in, having about 2-3 minute profiles on each player that they list among the top. I like the way they do this because it's just the NFL players themselves that are playing. They're playing with each other, and then they're the ones that are voting on who are the best players. And out of all of the hundreds of players that are in the NFL, the fact that they were able to come up with these top 100, if you're a member of this top 100, you're a very, very, very talented football player. And I think that's one of the biggest honors in the sport, being recognized by your peers, by, I don't think the coaches vote, but yeah, just being recognized by your peers and then having it show for it. Having your play just go completely recognized by not only your teammates, but other players in the league. But I'm going to start with this. They've been releasing these like 30, 40 a day. So for this episode, I'm going to go through the numbers 100 through 51. And then for the next episode, I'll go through 50 through number 1 and just give you just like my borderline take for all these players because I really like all of them. So I'm just going to get into it. First, starting off with 100, Lavonte David. I've always respected Lavonte David. I'm a Falcons fan, so I already know that he does a lot for that Buccaneers team, and I'm glad. I think he should be recognized, especially on the top 100. 99 was Darren Waller, who was the tight end for the Raiders. I think he has a really, really bright future ahead of him. He's very, very young, and I think he has a lot more to go. 98, I like Brandon Brooks. He does a lot for that Eagles offensive line. I didn't expect him to really get called up, but that just shows how respected he is by the league. 97, I've been following Budda Baker ever since he played at Washington. I think he's a very, very good player, and I didn't expect him to really come into his own in Arizona that quickly, so I'm proud of him for what he's done. 96, I like Chris Carson. I'm a really big fan of Chris Carson. I like the way he runs. I like the way he fits in that Seattle offense. And I like how everyone told him that he wasn't elite, and he showed them wrong. 95 was Frank Clark, defensive tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think he played a really, really big part. And I think it is kind of wild how he is there for a lot of the really, really big plays. And I think that's somewhat of a skill. I don't know if I don't think that's luck. I think he's a really, really, really talented player. Moving on to Jason Kelce, the center for the Philadelphia Eagles. Of course, I think he's incredibly good. He's been there. He's been their rock for as long as the Eagles have been crazy good, especially under Carson Wentz. 93 was Allen Robinson, the wide receiver for the Bears. I like him. I'm glad the Bears have a good wide receiver, and I'm glad that it's Allen Robinson. He eventually had to move around some places, but I like that he's in Chicago now. I like Darius Slay also at 92 because I'm not going to dispute the rating because of course they all ranked each other, but Darius Slay is one of the best. He's one of the best football players in the league, especially at corner. It sucks that he plays at Detroit, but I'm telling you, I really like how Darius Slay plays as a player. 91 is Grady Jarrett, a defensive tackle for the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, he made his first Pro Bowl this year. He's starting to get recognized alongside the big boys, and the Falcons did franchise tag him, meaning that he is a very important player to that roster, and we'll see how he plays, especially on the Atlanta Falcons defense this year. Number 90 was the Offensive Rookie of the Year, Kyler Murray, the quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals. And of course, I like how he plays. I think he needs to put in a couple more years for me to consider him elite, because I think he was really, really good in Oklahoma, and a lot of that was the system. But I have to see what he does in his second year. If he shows that he's elite this year, I'll definitely add him to the elite. To me, I think he's too young to... He's not too young. I just need to see a little bit more of him. 89 is Cooper Kupp, the wide receiver of the Rams. I love Cooper Kupp. I used to live out in LA. I used to love watching the Rams. I used to like him. I used to like watching him play with the Rams, especially while he's been there. He's proven everyone wrong since college, and I think he's done a good thing. Number 88 is Jalen Smith, the linebacker for the Dallas Cowboys, and I've liked him ever since Notre Dame. It sucks that his ACL injury had him fall to the point where everyone just forgot who he was, but now people are going to start to remember who Jalen Smith is. He's going to be a force in this league. 87 is Josh Allen, the quarterback for the Buffalo Bills, and I give my friends a hard time about Josh Allen, but in reality, I really do like him. He's a great dual threat quarterback. And considering how good this Buffalo Bills team is, it seems as though I think he's going to be a playoff quarterback for a long time. I don't know if he'll be the player he'll probably win them a couple games in the playoffs, but he will be in the playoffs he'll be in the playoffs a good amount, especially with this Buffalo Bills team. Number 86 was Marlon Humphrey, the cornerback for the Ravens, who went to Alabama, and I like Marlon Humphrey. He makes a lot of very, very good plays, and I like that he's been kind of the same player that he's been at Alabama, so I really appreciate that about him. 85 is Zach Ertz, the tight end of the Philadelphia Eagles. And of course, I like Zach Ertz. He makes the Eagles a lot better of a team, and I'm pretty sure Carson Wentz, every time he wakes up, he thanks his lucky stars that he has Zach Ertz as his tight end. Moving to the number 84 is Cameron Hayward, the defensive tackle of the Steelers. I like him. I like how he gets the Steelers offense going. He's a very consistent defensive tackle, and just being on this list means that he's recognized by his peers, which he should be. Number 83 is Eric Kendricks, the middle linebacker for the Vikings out of UCLA. No, I like Eric Kendricks. I've been following him since UCLA because I used to live out there, and I'm glad he went to the Vikings and he's really kind of running things in the middle. Number 82 is Ryan Ramczyk, the offensive lineman for the New Orleans Saints. I think, especially with Drew Brees, I think Drew Brees has really been blessed with his offensive line, and it's like he's been waiting his whole year for an offensive line this good, and it's never really been this good. And now Ryan Ramczyk's holding it down. That's why I think Ryan Ramczyk's incredibly important, because Drew Brees doesn't throw for Drew Brees yards without a crazy good O-line. And then, he does, but this year he wouldn't have. Number 81 was DK Metcalf, the wide receiver for the Seattle Seahawks. I've always kind of liked DK Metcalf, and I like his pairing with Russell Wilson at quarterback, because Russell Wilson can of course make almost any throw on a football field. And considering how incredibly athletic DK Metcalf is, I think if he stays in Seattle, Russell Wilson will probably make him a really good, possibly all-time great receiver. Number 80 was Myles Garrett, the defensive end for the Cleveland Browns, who I actually have as one of my elite. And of course he fell because he played half the season. But in the half the season that he played, he was on pace to be the defensive player of the year. The Cleveland Browns were able to ink him up for a 5-year extension. And I think that was a smart move, because I think Myles Garrett will still be, coming into this year, he might be one of the best defensive players, if not the best defensive player in all of football this year. Going on to 79. Number 79 was Calais Campbell, of course, the ginormous defensive end that plays for the Jaguars, that played for the Cardinals at one point. I think the fact that he's still elite, despite being well into his 30s and being recognized as at least a top 80 player in the league out of the hundreds, of course, that says a lot. He's an amazing player, uses his size incredibly well. And then following him at 78 is Tyron Smith, the left tackle for the Dallas Cowboys. Of course, the Dallas Cowboys have the best O-line in football. They've had it for almost half a decade now. And I think he's been their central piece, and he's still very, very young, and he has a lot of years ahead of him. Number 77 was Keenan Allen, the wide receiver for the San Diego Chargers, who, like they said in the piece, he gets a lot of really, really good separation. And I personally like Keenan Allen. He just plays on the Chargers, and it's just, I feel like if he played for a contender, you'd see him a lot more. Moving on to 76 is Marshawn Lattimore, the cornerback for the New Orleans Saints, who has shown in his really, really short career what he can be, what he can do with that position. And of course, being recognized by your peers as one of the best cornerbacks, despite it being your second or third year in the league. It shows how much respect he's earned in this league. Number 75 is another elite player I have, is Earl Thomas, the safety for the Ravens. And of course, I don't know if he played the full season, but of course he gets to the Ravens and immediately changes that offense from the back for the better. He brings on that leadership mentality. He brings on the leadership qualities, the intangibles from Seattle. And he makes the Ravens a crazy unstoppable defense. Moving to 74, another Baltimore Raven is Ronnie Stanley, the tackle that kept Lamar Jackson, the MVP, from getting incredibly hurt this year. So, of course, that earns him some respect, of course. 73 was Fletcher Cox, the defensive tackle for the Philadelphia Eagles. And if you watch the Eagles, Fletcher Cox is a very, very big cog in that engine. I like Fletcher Cox. I like how consistent he is. And of course, this is not his first appearance on the top 100, but yeah, he's consistently being ranked as regarded by his, he's being called out individually by his teammates. He's getting voted by his peers as one of the best. Going on to 72 was Oakland Raiders running back Josh Jacobs, who had an amazing season. I think he's a year away from being added onto the elite list. I think it's a bit early because I haven't seen a lot of him. Especially, I saw him at Alabama, but there were other options at Alabama, so I wasn't completely sure. But I do like Josh Jacobs now. He's an amazing running back, and he's officially on my radar. Number 71, you have Jarrell Casey, who is now the defensive tackle for the Denver Broncos, who's been really killing it with the Tennessee Titans over the past couple of years. He's incredibly big and strong, and he does a lot, especially in the trenches in the run game. I think the Broncos have really added a really strong piece. Number 70 was Fred Warner, the linebacker for the San Francisco 49ers that won the NFC. And considering I didn't watch the Niners until the playoffs because I was abroad, but Fred Warner in the playoffs was a beast, and I like him. I think he's going to get a lot better as a player, and as the 49ers age, I think he could be one of the best linebackers in football. 69 was Larry Fitzgerald, the wide receiver for the Arizona Cardinals, who's been doing the same thing since, I don't even know. He's really been one of the best wide receivers for a very, very long time, over the last decade for sure. And the fact that he's still, out of all the other players, he was ranked above all of them shows a lot to how good of an athlete Larry Fitzgerald is. Number 68 is Ryan Tannehill, the quarterback for the Tennessee Titans, who did have some big plays for them down the stretch. He didn't just hand the ball off to Derrick Henry. He did make some amazing throws in the playoffs, and I have a lot more respect for Ryan Tannehill now than I did before this season. Number 67 was Demario Davis, who was the linebacker for the Saints. And because I'm a Falcons fan, I'm well aware of what Demario Davis can do. And as a Falcons fan, I have a lot of respect for him. And he's a very, very good player. Of course, he was ranked within the top 2/3 of the top 100 or 67, whatever. But he's still incredibly good, and I think the Saints are very happy to have him on their team. Number 66 was Laramie Tunsil, the offensive lineman that keeps Deshaun Watson safe on the Houston Texans. Of course, with the Texans being a playoff team and Deshaun Watson really breaking out as an amazing player, that shows as to how much Laramie Tunsil has done for them. Moving to 65 was Russell Wilson's main target, Tyler Lockett, the wide receiver for the Seahawks. And I really like Tyler Lockett, especially with how far he's come from Kansas State, because I liked him in college. He's a very, very good player, and I like watching him play in the NFL. Number 64 was another elite player I had. It was Harrison Smith. To me, I think he's the cog that makes the Vikings defense go. There are other players in the Vikings defense that I would consider, but to me, it's Harrison Smith. And considering the Vikings were yet again a playoff team, and their defense was one of the best in the league, I point a lot of that to Harrison Smith really calling it as it is at safety. Number 63 was Preston Smith, the linebacker for the Packers. And ever since he's been there, since they got him, the Packers were the best team in the NFC North last year. They actually, Aaron Rodgers had a very, very good defense, and Preston Smith and he was one of the players that helped the Packers hold it down on the defensive side of the football. Number 62 was Aaron Rodgers' protector, David Bakhtiari, the beer chugger. He was actually featured in a lot of the segments where he was talking about some of the other players. I think David Bakhtiari is a very underrated offensive lineman that not a lot of people give credit to, but he's earned his stripes. He's a very, very good player, and I imagine that he's going to hold it down for Aaron Rodgers next year. Standing it at 61 is Jarvis Landry, one of the two-headed demon for the Cleveland Browns at wide receiver. He had an amazing year of receptions and catches with Baker Mayfield, and he's only getting better. Amazing hands, amazing footwork, amazing athlete. I like Jarvis Landry, especially paired up with Odell Beckham Jr. in Cleveland. Number 60 was Logan Ryan, the cornerback who I think he led all cornerbacks in tackles this year for the Tennessee Titans. I think he ended up with a pick 6 on Tom Brady in the playoffs. Logan Ryan is big time. I really mean it. He does play for the Titans, but I'm telling you, Logan Ryan is big time. Number 59 is Odell Beckham Jr., who's another one of my elites on the other side of Jarvis Landry. He didn't get a lot of yards and touchdowns this year, but he did draw a lot of double teams. And the way his peers were talking about him, even though he had a down year, He's definitely very respected in this league as one of the league's best, especially after the catch and even through the catch. Like he's one of the best. He has one of the best hands in the league. He's an amazing athlete playing at that position, and I have no reason to doubt that the Browns will be a threat in the AFC this year, a threat at the least. Number 58 was Kirk Cousins, the quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. Of course, he had a very, very good year for himself, for the Vikings. The Vikings had a very, very good year. He had some very, very good throws down the stretch, especially in the playoffs. Kirk Cousins is a better quarterback than people give him credit for. Number 57 was Davante Adams, a very underrated receiver. Not underrated, but I mean, I'd say he's not as, I think he's still underrated compared to how good he is. Aaron Rodgers makes really, really good use of Davante Adams. He's really, really good at separating. I like what he does. I think he makes the Packers a much better offense. I'm going to 57 or going to 56, go to DeForest Buckner, the defensive end from Oregon. I was following him in college. And I've seen what he's done with the 49ers since, and I'm glad that in this season that he was able to make himself known as one of the best defensive line, because he's a very big guy, and he uses his size incredibly well, and he makes the 49ers defense a lot. He makes them really, really, really good. Standing in at 55 was the guard, Zach Martin. Well, he's one of the captains of the Cowboys. Right now, I think he was probably voted as the highest rated player on that offensive line. He's rated at 55 as an offensive lineman. He's pretty good. He's definitely respected by his peers, the way the defensive lineman talked about him and just how he's been able to open up lanes for Zeke and help Dak be able to become the player that he is. Standing at 54 was wide receiver Stephon Diggs, who was recently on the Vikings but is now with Josh Allen on the Buffalo Bills. And I think he's a good player. He has good hands. He brings a lot of intensity, and yeah, I'm a Stephon Diggs fan. I like what he does for football. He's a great player. Number 53 was Marcus Peters, who got relocated from the Rams to the Ravens, and I'm glad he's on the Ravens. I think his career is really going to take off there. I think Marcus Peters to me is one. I think he's really, really close. I would consider him elite. I'm gonna give him one more year with the Ravens, and then I might name him as elite by the end of this upcoming season. Chris Jones was a defensive tackle for the Chiefs, who ended up being really, really big for them, especially down the stretch, especially in helping them in the Super Bowl. Because let's not forget, they did have Pat Mahomes, but the Chiefs did have a really good defense. Like when they have a really, really good defense, a good roster of defensive players, and Chris Jones is just one of them. And rounding it out at 51, finishing this one out, is Todd Gurley, the running back from the Rams, who's currently on the Falcons, who dropped from number 5 to 51. He's still respected by all those players, and I imagine he's going to make a really, really big impact on the Falcons, because if this dude's saying he's healthy, when healthy, Todd Gurley is a top 10 player in football. Not much else to say, but those are numbers 100 through 51. And as of right now, they've released 49 through 11, but they have 50 through 11, but I will go through 50 through number 1 I'll go over it on Friday when I have the chance to. But in the meantime, I really appreciate you for getting a chance to hear me out, give me a chance to listen to my piece. Yeah, peace out, and I wish everyone well, especially with the quarantine.